Run a power move on them. Turn it up. Run a power move on them. Turn it up. Run a power. What's up? It's your man Billy T. Around the D with Billy T. And I got my good friend Mr. Teferi Brent online here. How you doing today, my brother?
Grace and peace. The legendary Billy T is in the building.
Now look, man, I wore this shirt just for you. DJ Butter gave me this shirt. You see some of the names on there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Echam, Awesome Dre, Smiley. And of course, they can't mention Detroit Rap without Chaos and Maestro.
Listen, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of all those cats on that shirt. And I can tell you some significant stories about all the brothers and sisters on that shirt.
Absolutely.
And I love all of them. And I honor all of them. And I recognize that Detroit hip hop is what it is because of the bricks laid by those beautiful and courageous and creative and gifted brothers and sisters who came before this current crop of dope artists. And we always got to hold those names up, man.
That's right.
I just have I have a lot of appreciation and respect and admiration for all those brothers and sisters.
And that's why when I saw that shirt, I said, "But I gotta have that shirt, man. I gotta have it." So he blessed me with that. So listen, man, you went from being a rapper to as we grow up, we venture out into different things, and you've become somewhat of a community activist, I guess you would say. You are involved in a lot of things out here. You're in politics, but not in politics, I guess you could say. You can reach out and touch pretty much anybody. So we wanted to talk about some of the issues of the day. You know, like they have the State of the Union, the State of the State. I want to call this the State of the Streets with Teferi Brent. How about that?
Man, well, that's humbling, but it's a lot of us out here in the streets putting in good work. So I just want to, hold up and lift up all those brothers and sisters who are out here doing some magnificent work in the community. Many soldiers, and I'm just proud of the ability to be able to walk in the purposes God has given and to be able to make the small contribution I make in the corner that God has given me. But it's just so many brothers and sisters in the community doing this work, Billy. I mean, there is no city like Detroit when it comes to grassroots community activism. We are one of the very best at it. And there's no city does it quite the way we do it. And that's because so many of us are doing excellent work, I think, in the corners that God has given us. So, I'm just happy to be a part of the process. But remember, Billy T, we go way back because, you remember how we used to define rap, right? Revolutionary African poetry.
There you go. Yeah.
Remember when you interviewed us on the Thomas Inside of Chaos video? You was in my second video.
Yes.
In our second
one
video.
Too. In the first one too. The first one, alley.
The first one. Yeah. Behind the flaming embers.
Right. I was telling somebody the other day that alley now it's they got it all decorated up and stuff. I said we used to go back there and do videos.
yeah. Remember we call rap revolutionary African poetry.
Yep.
And we call rappers righteous African poets purposely educated for revolution. Remember?
So you were always conscious. This is not new. You were always definitely a voice.
I wasn't always conscious. I kind of got conscious around that period of time in my life, but I was
okay.
I was quite foolish before then, and I was blind, deaf, and dumb, like Elijah Muhammad would call many of the brothers and sisters. Before, I was introduced to God and introduced to the wonderful power of Black people and Black culture and Black history. Before I met Dr. Earl Henderson and the Clementine Barfield and the Reverend Wendell Anthony, I was blind, deaf, and dumb. But when you know better, you do better.
When
you get exposed to information that radically transforms and challenges your consciousness and your spirit, then, if you're courageous enough and if you are resourced enough, you are compelled to respond to it.
So listen, we had a small victory, if you will, in the George Floyd case. The police officer, Derek Chauvin, was convicted on all counts, guilty on all counts. We'll wait and see what the sentencing is. But while the case is going, this is the I guess the backhanded slap I say one step forward, two steps back. While the case is going on, the young man right there in Minnesota, 10 miles from the courtroom, gets shot and killed by the police. And then yesterday, the young lady in Columbus, Ohio, an unfortunate situation there, shot and killed by the police. The situation in Wisconsin, the police officer has been charged. The lady who shot him with her gun and she thought she was using a taser, she has been charged, I believe, second-degree murder or manslaughter, one or the other, but she has at least been charged. The situation that everybody's talking about now in Columbus, Ohio, the police pulls up, the young girl's involved in a fight right in front of her house. She had a knife and was attacking a young lady. The police officer felt like his only recourse was to shoot her 4 times. What are your thoughts on that? It's a tough situation, but what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's a continuation of a profoundly systemic issue relative to policing in black communities, black and brown communities, but especially white police black communities. Reality is these folks are not equipped, trained, or skilled to effectively deal with African people. The entire American um, policing system, as you've heard many, many times, was built on the model established by slave patrols. There's another model, an English model called named after Sir Robert Peel, called the Peelian model, which is rooted in a holistic, healthy form of community policing. There are some police agencies and institutions who are more given to that model. That model is community based. It's profoundly different than this current model that's exercised by many white police officers, but also some Negro police officers in this country, and they really reflect and replicate the behavior of course, slave patrolmen. At the time of the institutionalized enslavement of African people. I'm saying, and you see really a repetition of that, a replication of that, and a continuation of the continuum. White supremacy is real. White supremacy is the evil and the poison that contaminates every aspect of our humanistic experience here in this country. It's a thorn in the back of African people in this country, and it affects every institution, every organization, every subculture, every agency that we have to and that we are compelled to have to interface with. The police department it represents oftentimes a policing organization in this country represents the worst of that, because the question becomes really, who are they called to serve and protect? When you understand that language and the origins of that language, serving and protecting never was meant for African people in this country. It was never meant for black folk. It was to serve and protect white, male, corporate, and land ownership. It
Yeah.
was it was to serve and protect the interests of those who were in a position of power. And you and I both know, African people, we have taken power, we have fought for power. Institutionally and systemically, we have not really been in positions of power, although we vie for it perpetually, right? And in some cases, we end up with some, but the reality is, serve and protect was never meant for us. Serve who, protect from who? Serve who, protect who? It was white male capitalists, white male landowners, white male corporatists who oftentimes found their wealth or gained their wealth via the exploitation of African people in this country. That's just a reality.
Slavery. What is it with that in mind? What can be done to? I mean, we have to reform the police. Things have to change with the police. One of the biggest things I think is this immunity that they have.
Unity.
Yeah, that's insane to me. That's something that needs to change immediately. Uh, Along with that, what else can be done in this policing system as we know it?
Well, the reality is that there has to be, here's what's real. And here's the place we need to go. There has to be accountability for brutalizing and terrorizing citizens, in this country, and black and brown folks in this country. It cannot be acceptable. There must be a severe penalty and price to pay if you murder, because crime is crime. Here's what we're clear about. And folks don't like to talk about it in these terms, but this is the reality. When you're murdering innocent people, unarmed black people, right? And when you choose to deal with black folks radically different than you deal with white folks who find themselves in the same or in similar situations, that speaks to what we call disparate impact, right? I'm saying, so those things are illegal in this country, right? But America doesn't respect its own laws because its laws were never created to protect and serve black people in this country. Now we push the line and we fight and we force it in many regards. But if we didn't fight like hell for it, we would never receive justice in this country. But what we have to do is continue to press and fight. I mean, the reality is structures and systems are changed by policy. Right? That's the reality. Yep. And then once you implement and install those policies, there then must be enforcement. Policies without enforcement represent nothing. It leads to no significant long-term institutional change if there's no enforcement. So even though we may create good policy, but if there's no enforcement and consequence for violation of that policy, then the policy really means nothing, more than the paper that it's written on. So we have good legislation and policy. I mean, locally at the state level, Stephanie Chang and Sister Yancey, State Rep Yancey, they're doing some excellent things legislatively. Jeff Irwin out of Ann Arbor is doing some great things. Sister Sherry Danyego, when she was a state rep, she was doing some great things in regards to criminal justice reform. We got some strong police reform policies that have been written. It's just a matter of whether or not we can get it pushed through. And when we get it pushed through, when or if we get it pushed through, can we then ensure that it's being enforced? And can we ensure that folks who violate these policies are then held accountable? The Karen Bass Justice and Policing Act, that must get passed, because what that law does, and here it addresses qualified immunity, but more importantly, what it does, see, at the federal level, you cannot prosecute a police officer for willful intent, which is sort of like equivalent to first-degree murder, right? You can't prosecute an officer for that. All you can really, I'm sorry. All you can prosecute an officer for is willful intent.
Oh, okay.
That's all you can prosecute an officer for. Willful intent is like first-degree murder.
Okay.
It's hard to prove.
Right.
There is no recklessness clause, right, in federal statute, right?
So they've made it the hardest one to prove.
Yeah. There's no manslaughter, right? When it comes to prosecuting police officers, although Barack Obama prosecuted successfully hundreds of them that you never hear about, but that's a different discussion.
That's on a federal level.
At a federal level.
So on the state level, what we saw the other day was on the state level.
State law oftentimes represents federal law.
Gotcha.
Right? I'm saying, so the key is changing federal law.
Gotcha.
Qualified immunity is a federal dynamic, right? Okay. I'm saying, so we have to go after these laws at a federal level and also locally without question, but we have to go at these laws at a federal level. You have to do it concurrently. You got to attack them at every turn, right? Because our people are negatively impacted in the federal prison system and by the federal criminal justice system, and also by the state and by the local criminal justice system. We have got to support the Karen Bass law, the Karen Bass's George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, because it directly addresses those federal statutes, the federal statute that says that you can only prosecute an officer if you can prove there was willful intent, or if it's a first-degree murder case. The law says you can now prosecute officers for recklessness.
Okay.
Reckless endangerment, which is more like second-degree murder and manslaughter, which is a lower threshold.
Right.
And which in many cases, right, is what it is.
Right.
but they carry long time with them.
Okay.
Right. So a lot
might,
of people don't know that about Karen Bass's law.
Okay. So we need to push that. So now let's come back home.
Right.
You've been involved in a couple situations, and you have to give us the whole story of it. One was a situation where a store owner, this is a few months ago now, but for those who might not know, there was a store owner that actually beat a woman. And what was that situation? And what happened? You've been out and protested about it.
Yeah, he's a Chaldean guy named Bassam Yatuma. And the sister is Andrea Warren. And she's a mentally disabled sister.
Oh.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
She's legally mentally disabled. Over 23 years ago, she was in a serious car accident where she was thrown through the front windshield of her vehicle and was left for dead for 2.5 days on the side of 96 freeway.
Whoa.
She was in a coma, I believe, for 11 months. It's by the grace of God that she survived. However, as you can probably imagine, she suffered severe brain trauma.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So she is not in her right mind, and she definitely does not possess the cognitive capacity and ability to consent to really anything.
Okay.
So anything that happens to her is a direct violation of her person, whether it be something physical or sexual or whatever the case. It's a direct violation of her person. She really needs to have a ward, or someone needs to really be legally given the right to help manage her business because of that severe brain trauma that she experienced.
Okay.
So the sister was allegedly panhandling, which is a misdemeanor and a violation of city ordinance outside of the liquor store. Now, you and I both know we have Andrea Warrens all over the city.
Right.
Because after the 1990s, 92 and 94 specifically, when Lafayette was closed down and other mental health facilities by Governor England, we understand that a lot of those brothers and sisters, they were now forced to,
go out on the streets. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
They were forced back to living situations that didn't have the proper resources to treat their concerns or their challenges. So this is the direct result of that. So we have a lot of Andrea Warrens throughout the community, but the difference is they don't all wind up beat down by a business owner who's been privileged, right, with the opportunity to make money off people in our community and to provide he and his loved ones with a living. Right. So this sister was allegedly outside panhandling or doing whatever brothers and sisters, occasionally do when they have a mental health challenge or they're mentally disabled. Right. He chooses, based on what we're hearing, he chooses to snatch the sister, drag her inside the store, and sock her in the face twice. Now, there's a lie in the rumor out here that she provoked it, but that's not true based upon the 5 witnesses. There was no spitting or any of that. There was no objective evidence that ever happened. Right. So he punched that sister in the face twice. Now, to me, it's attempt murder because of her mental state.
Yeah.
And the thing is, he's been over there for 23 years, so they know this sister.
Okay.
Right? That business has been there for that long anyway. They know this sister, right? They've done things for this sister. So why is it that he feels compelled to think that it's okay for you to violate one of our brothers and sisters in that manner? Because I guarantee you I couldn't do that in Sterling Heights.
Right.
I guarantee you I couldn't do that in Warren. I couldn't do that in Dearborn or in Troy. I couldn't even do that on 7 Mile and Woodward. You heard? Right? So, that's the issue. And this is why he needs to be held accountable, because you have many brothers and sisters from that community, right?
Yeah.
Who don't know how to effectively deal with the African-American community, right? So there are a couple things. You're going to be held accountable when you're non-compliant and you violate the law and you bring harm to our people. But we also offer you an opportunity to get training. We have a training program called the Derek Leon Roberts Training Program for gas station and liquor store owners. We teach them cultural competency, and we also teach them customer service, right? Good customer service. So we're willing to help. We're not just here to shut down. We're not just here to hold you accountable, but we're here to help make you better so that brothers and sisters in our community not violated and victimized and terrorized and brutalized by their ineptitude and their cultural incompetency. Okay. So we're holding it. So this guy had to be held accountable.
So right? What did you do to hold him accountable?
Well, we shut him down for roughly 7 days.
Okay.
And we're also ensuring that justice be provided for Andrea Warren. Those are the top things. There are some other things. I have demands I can send you, but those are the top two things.
Okay.
Because if we had not got involved, there would not have been any charges brought against this guy.
Right.
So we're waiting now for Kim Worthy to officially bring charges and assign the arrest warrant so this guy can be held accountable, because you don't reserve the right to brutalize African women in African communities that you've been privileged and blessed with the opportunity to make a living off of. If you're gonna get our money, you better respect us.
Exactly.
Right? You bet. I don't care what our situation is. I don't care how we act. You better treat the customer with respect, with the same kind of respect and dignity that you treat people in your own community, or with the same kind of respect and dignity that you want your mama, your wife, your daughter, and your grandmama to be treated with.
That's right. There you go. Preach, brother. So that situation right now stands where? You're waiting on Kim Worthy has to bring charges?
Oh, for sure, for sure. I mean, the reality is, there are some people in the community, many people in the community, because we're in the food desert, right? That store for years has just been a wine and beer store, but they also provide groceries for the community. So we're sensitive to that. If you're going to shut something down, right, you're going to have to replace it, right? But they want $1.8 million to purchase the store.
Man,
we have people who have the capacity and the resources to potentially buy it. So we're working through that process right now.
Okay.
But it was never our intention, right, to shut them down all the way. Now, if you murder somebody, like the spot over on Grassley, when they killed Joshua Lewis, they still shut down.
Now that was the gas station.
The gas station on 6 Mile Southfield, they were shut down for 6 months. I'm saying, so there's a price to pay if you take somebody's life.
Right.
But in this particular case, although they just may get charged with assault and battery, it was really attempt murder when you consider the mental health of the sister Andrea Warren.
Yeah.
Because one blow to her head could have killed her, Brother Billy.
Right. But that's why we need people like you to come in and help in these situations, and
people like us. It was a coalition of community organizations and community leaders and community servants, and there are a bunch of issues with that story. Like the middle school down the street, for instance. One of my partners is the dean of culture at the middle school, and he's been asking that store owner for years to not open up so early because it inhibits or it prevents a lot of his students from getting to school on time, and a lot of them are truant. And he's been asking him for years to not open up so early, or to at least not allow the students to congregate inside or around the store during school opening hours, right? And he's failed to comply, but yet he claims to be a servant of the community, and he claims to love Black people and love the people and love the kids and love the babies and all that shit. But the reality is his behaviors don't reflect the value system that he claims to possess.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's the reality.
That's the reality. Well, those are things that are on an everyday street level that we need to address in those situations. You are very listen, man, I got to ask you this because I'm sure you've heard this been asked before. But right now there are going to be some vacancies on the Detroit City Council. A lot of people are leaving and not coming back. Brenda Jones, for one, the president. Come on, man. When you gonna make that move? And
well, the reality is I'm already serving the people.
You have no desire. You have no desire to like be on city council or something like that.
It has to be worth it. I'm blessed. I'm blessed. I have a good career. In my private business life. So that would be a tremendous pay cut for me.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, in that case,
I'm saying that, and any state rep job, right? I'm saying, so I'm blessed in that regard. But then the other part of it is I don't do this for money, Brother Billy. Okay. You couldn't pay me to serve Black people. You couldn't pay me to serve the citizens of Detroit. I do this because God has called me and fashioned me in such a way. This is my purpose, is to serve African people, right? And to do God's will via my service to the Black community and to the citizens of Detroit. So I mean, you really couldn't pay me for it. I think being a legislator is very important. I really believe in policy. I've helped write some. I'll continue to help write some. We're gonna write some around around these gas stations and liquor stores. I'm saying, but as far as being an elected official, there are other brothers and sisters who may be more qualified and who may be more interested in doing that. I would rather be the guy that helps support and develop and train folks who want to run for office. I really like supporting people who really, there are some people who really love being politicians, who love politics, who really want to be an elected official, and they're good at it. And I think
Okay.
we need to support people like Anthony Adams, who's now running for mayor, who is probably one of the most qualified candidates we've ever had
Okay.
in the history of Detroit, to be honest with you. And then you look at Sister Nicole Smalls, who's running at large for city council. We've got to support. We've got to support Sister Nicole Smalls. You got Brother Willie Davis in District 7, who has proven to be a good servant for the people. You got Sister Letitia over in I think it's District in 3, who has proven to be a servant of the people. You got Brother Ortegas Jackson L, who's running for police commissioner, I think over in District 2. We got to support that brother. There are some wonderful brothers and sisters who are running for office, that we need to support. And I think that when you have people who really want to do that work, you had to support them. I mean, that's not really what my heart is. My heart is more so, being on the ground, working different levels of leadership and ensuring that the people's voices are heard at every level of governmental structures, from the president all the way down to the block club president, right? I believe that the people's voice needs to be heard, and there are individuals who have been called to ensure that the people's voices are heard. And I believe that, humbly speaking, that I may be one of those folks. So I'm happy to fill that gap.
All
I don't
right.
I don't have to be an elected official or
To do
anything like
work.
that. Because we're doing the work anyway,
Okay.
right? So I know all the elected officials, and they work well with us, right?
Okay.
And they support us, and they normally do whatever we ask of them, because what we ask of them is always intelligent, well studied, researched, and data driven. And any elected official that's worth anything, that's the only way they're going to make decisions for the people. So uh, I have no big interest in that. But I will, like, say for instance, I may take an assignment,
Hmm.
right? Like if at the governor's level, or at the mayor's level, if one of those cabinet positions were offered to me, and I was in a position to really bring about some positive change in the community and make some systemic changes, I would consider something like that. But as far as running for office, I don't know. Maybe when I retire.
We'll see. We'll see.
Hey, but
Well,
listen, but Billy, in regards to the sister, I don't think I ever really answered your question in regards to our sister in Columbus.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Biggest issue there, if I may, do I have time?
Sure, go ahead.
The biggest issue there for me, other than the fact that the officer came and whipped out his gun as opposed to his taser, right? And he came really ill prepared and ill equipped to deal with what he ran into. So I'm not even gonna get into. It's obvious, what happened in regards to the brothers and sisters, right? But I think some of the things that, see, we're always in far too many cases we're too reactionary.
Right.
When I see stuff like this, I'm always thinking about, what do we do on a day-to-day basis when we see these triggers, or when we see these behaviors? What do we do to address it? Because the sisters who were beefing, that
Mhm.
didn't just happen that day.
No, it did not. That had
Okay.
been building up, I'm sure.
The sister who has obviously had some anger issues,
Hmm.
who reacted hyper aggressively, she
Hmm.
didn't just become that way.
Right.
The brother who was kicking the sister on the ground,
Right.
he didn't just start disrespecting Black women. The brothers who stood around and watched it and didn't feel an obligation to interrupt, to intervene, and to be peacemakers, they didn't just become that way. See,
Okay.
so my issue for Black folks is, when we see this in our people in the community, in our neighborhoods and on the block, are we addressing it?
Right.
What are we doing to address these issues when we see it in the community early? See, I always say we own a lot of these deaths. Those of us who are in a community who turn the other way, who make memes and take videos about people violating, victimizing, and terrorizing each other, we think it's funny, right?
Hmm.
When we stand back and don't intervene, when we watch the brother beat the sister up, or we watch the sisters fight in the street with their halter tops taken off and they, and they pants pulled down, and we think that's funny and we don't intervene, right? When we don't address these issues, when we see it on the block, when we see it in the community, we directly contribute to it. And we understand this trauma. We understand there may be a lack of a positive and righteous and healthy and wholesome family structure. We understand how white supremacy has negatively impacted and destroyed everything that's righteous and beautiful about Black people. We get all that. We understand that self-hatred is the byproduct and the offspring of white supremacy. We get that. But power concedes nothing without demand, never has, never will. Without struggle, there's no progress. We understand who the enemy is. We understand what the problems are, but what do we do to address it? And then all of a sudden, when it explodes and it results in something like this, right? We want to react. But we should have been proactive, because we saw that these brothers and sisters have these issues, because that's what trauma does. All of us in the Black community have been traumatized. What are we doing to address it, man? Right? We can't always react when it becomes a catastrophic, isolated event. We can't. We have to do better. So that's what hurts me. Right? I'm really, trust me, I'm enraged when I see Black folks get shot and murdered by white police officers, especially with me understanding. I've been screaming this for almost 20 years, and folks, just started listening, right? That there was a 2006 FBI memo. It's now unredacted as a result of some of the work that some of us have been doing with screaming and demanding it gets unredacted. But it's now unredacted. You can find it. I'll send it to you, Billy T.
Okay.
Where it's the FBI have said that white supremacists and white nationalist organizations and individuals may attempt to infiltrate law enforcement departments and the military.
And they have. And they have.
Watch this. The brother who is the Secretary of Defense, one of his first actions was he announced recently that he is going to weed out the white supremacist element in the military. Police departments need to assume that same posture. I am not convinced, right? Because when you track the behaviors of a lot of these officers who kill Black people, a lot of them have some sort of white supremacist, white nationalist orientation or affiliation, and many of them were supporters of the MAGA, or the Trump movement, right? They come out of that ideological orientation. So my thing is, if you can catch it on the back end, how come you can't catch it on the front end? And what I've been asking is, what are we doing throughout the country, in this state, in our city, to ensure that we don't have white supremacists, I'm talking about avowed, overt white supremacists, right, on our police force? Because I believe that's a big part of this. I sincerely believe that, brother.
I do too.
Right? Absolutely. But we gotta do better, man. We can't talk about defunding the police, right, if we're not willing to defend the Black community. You gotta defend before you defund. Listen, I don't want police in my community, but I don't want violent criminals in my community either. So you can't talk about running the police out if you're not gonna sit up and defend your block, or walk your mama to the liquor store, make sure it's safe for your queen to go to the gas station at 8 o'clock at night, ensuring that your babies are gonna get snatched and kidnapped, right, and raped and thrown into some high-ass grass when they walking back and forth to school. You can't talk to me about defund if you're not willing to ensure that cats ain't trapping on every other block and they trap houses on the corner, right? That sisters ain't being raped and violated, that elders ain't being snatched out their houses beat up, robbed, and raped in their homes. You can't come talking to me about no defund if you ain't ready to defend. How you gonna talk about you running your block? What you running?
Nothing.
How you running your block? And when you want gas, you gotta get it from the Yemenis and the Lebanese. When you want food, you gotta get it from the Albanian. When you want liquor, or when you want juice, or you want pop, you gotta get it from the Chaldean community. When you want your hair, right, and your weave, and your hair products, you got to get it from the Chinese. When you want your clothes clean, you got to get it from the Chinese. How the hell you running your block? You don't run nothing but your mouth. How you running your block and your community is living in perpetual terror from the terror, perpetual trauma from the terror and the brutalization imposed upon the most vulnerable in our community by brothers who are not in their right mind for a myriad of different reasons. So don't come talking to me about defund if you ain't gonna defend. You can't run the police out if you ain't willing to run these rapists out the community or these baby killers out the community. I want them all out the community. I want white racist police. I want baby killers. I want the rapists. They all gotta go. That's what a real revolutionary do.
There you go.
If you ain't talking like that, you running off at the mouth. You a straight lane.
There you go. Teferi Brent. Talk that talk, man. Hey, you put a cap on it right there. And it is up to us. When they say accountability, we also have to be accountable for our own at the same time. So you put it very well, as always, my brother. And I thank you for your time and your energy and your work out there, the state of the streets, brother Teferi Brent. Hey, keep up the good work, brother, and we need to do this more often.
All right, brother, I'm here for you whenever you're ready to get down, brother.
Always.
Hey, brother, thank you for the opportunity for us to share and exchange and to inform and inspire the people.
Thank you for coming on with me. I appreciate it.
I love you, Brother Billy T. Much respect.
Love you too, brother. Much respect. Much respect.
Yes, sir.
Run a power move on them. Turn it up. Run a power move on them. Turn it up. Run a power move.